And if you're a Titans fan for a week or a decade, it doesn't really matter. The foundation was set with Frank Wycheck, Steve McNair, and Eddie George. And it's really sobering as you bring up, only one is left. Eddie is a torchbearer of this community and that Titans era. And it's unfortunate with Frank and Steve McNair's passing that there's really only one left. And, I think the other hard part to swallow, and this is a bigger conversation than anything else, is the documented health of Frank Wycheck since leaving football. Really, and it was public because he was on radio, and I'm sure we'll dive more into, his time at 104.5 The Zone, which, he talked each and every day. And Blaine Bishop, right, was a part of that and still a part of 104.5. You need those brand ambassadors that kind of leave the football era, go into broadcasting, and you still get to hear them because they are a representative or a voice from those teams that brought us so much joy and heartbreak, right? That's sports, so it's both. But the documentation of his health problems and his brain injury and the CTE story that Paul Kowarski had written back in the day at ESPN, everybody had kind of known. And everybody had heard it. I think that's the other unique part. Austin, you and I had many conversations. I had them with my dad, who everybody has their father's radio show or their father's television show. Like that was my dad's morning show. It was Mark Howard, Kevin Ingram, and Frank Wycheck. He owned the UPS store for like 17 years in downtown Nashville. He would listen to him every single day driving into work. And if something would happen, we'd have a phone call and he'd talk about what Frank said or what Mark said or what Kevin said. And it's just so difficult to know what really Frank Wycheck was going through in his brain if, in fact, he did have CTE, which we all assume. We may know more now if they go through an autopsy, and we'll figure out kind of the secondary nature of that. But that's impactful of today's game of football and why we play the way that we play football today versus in 1999, 1997, and some of the hits that Frank hit. And just to wrap up that dialogue, we do wish, Frank's family, there's and everybody that knew Frank, right? There's that part of this passing that is very hard to swallow with anybody's death.
Yeah, and Frank's family did put out the statement and did say that for CTE research, his brain will be donated for those efforts to find more about that. And unfortunately, you can only know if CTE is there post life. So look, there's so much to get into. I was typing out a tweet yesterday of just all the different families that Frank had, right? His actual last name by blood family, his Titans family, Titans radio family, 104.5 The Zone family, the whole city of Nashville, everybody who woke up and listened to the Wake Up Zone, driving into work, into school, whatever, all of the family that Frank touched right there. And I'm sure we've got memories, and I've got some childhood memories that I'll kind of share here of Frank Wycheck on and off the field. But I do want to get the chat more involved. If you have a memory, a moment of Frank getting to meet Frank, whatever it is that you have to share, we're going to get to the chat here. And also, because of the Music City Miracle, we do want to discuss this and really hear from you guys and how you're remembering Frank Wycheck. So in honor of Frank Wycheck, where were you during the Music City Miracle? Where were you during the Music City Miracle? We want to get to this and really make this about our community and how we can remember Frank Wycheck, a great Titan who had a lot of fantastic moments on and off the field here in Nashville. But first, Krebs Kubota is where you should turn for all of your equipment needs. KrebsKubota.com, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment provider. They are an elite Kubota dealer, which means they have the best equipment in the industry with the best warranties. We've been talking a lot about family so far this morning. They're family owned and operated for over 18 years in the Mid-States, and they've done so well with customer service and their family-run business. They've grown. They just started in Columbia. Now they have Franklin and Murfreesboro to go along with that, serving you across the entire mid-state area for all of your equipment needs. KrebsKubota.com.
A to Z Sports. We are brought to you by our morning show is title sponsored by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app and use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. They're the king of the sports book right there. Download on your Apple or Android app store. They're hooking you up. You got 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. A lot of action to get to. That's BetMGM.
All right, so Zach, we want to ask people, try to get you guys involved here to remember Frank Wycheck, who once again passed away tragically at his home in Chattanooga at the age of 52 after a fall in his home and found unresponsive on Saturday. So where were you during the Music City Miracle? January of 2000, the Titans were 13-3 in their first year of the Tennessee Titans. Frank was a part of the Titans jersey unveiling at Nissan at Adelphia Coliseum that spring before, a magical season, going undefeated at Adelphia Coliseum and then getting a home playoff game against the Buffalo Bills. 16 seconds left, down. Christie just hit the field goal and the kickoff happens. Short kick to Lorenzo Neal. Frank Wycheck gets it, hits Kevin Dyson across the field with a lateral. And then up the sideline, KD goes, and Dr. Dyson will be, I think, a part of the Titans radio broadcast tonight. And the rest is history. One of the greatest plays in NFL history. And Pat Ryan, he's got something. He's got something as Mike Keith loses his mind, but beautifully lays out a call that will go down in history, the Music City Miracle. Where were you when that happened? I was not even 10 years old yet, Zach. So we'll get to the chat here right now. I'll let you go. Where were you when the Music City Miracle hit? So we'll get more people's remembering of that crazy moment.
Well, I think you start with John, which is, I think this is a great comment to start us off. Music City Miracle happened the day that John was born. That's why he is a Titans fan. Thank you, Frank. So, what a great way to kind of start. Rashid was in diapers. He's sitting there. And that's the young and the old as time goes by. That's also why we like to ask these questions. Patrick says that he was at home watching it on TV. Unbelievable. In his kitchen with his best friend from Damon, about to head to Laser Quest. Throwback to Laser Quest. Amazing. Never forget. Home in Jersey from Dre. Just moved there that year. At home in Oklahoma. Outside playing from IR. Was 9. Got into football at 10 because a Titans fan after watching the Super Bowl, in which those are the type of moments. That's why it's so impactful of like Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes. Like that's where you get fandom, is that kids want to root for those type teams instead of the losing teams. And at that point, the Titans were winners. Still living in Jersey, at home watching with family, watching with friends and family at his friend's house from Johnny. Don't think I've ever been excited at that moment. Also crushing when they lost the Super Bowl. Absolutely there. Watching on television in Pennsylvania from Linwood, watching in front of the television from Chuck, yelling and jumping up and down, 5'9" tall, but bumped the head on the ceiling that day. Right there, sitting on it.
There, Chuck.
Scott sitting at my house, at my parents' house, remembering asking my grandpa in heaven for some help. I didn't want to see another playoff collapse by the Bills. Being from Illinois, Frank Wycheck was one of the guys that made Blake fall in love with the Titans. RIP. Music City Miracle is one of Brandon's first core memories for sports. 6 years old, family's living room, cemented in Brandon becoming a Titans fan. I think this is the great part about what we do and getting to know, this community, is that it is moments like that now, butterfly effect, Austin. That's why they're watching this show right now, is because of maybe what Frank did in that moment and all of the snowball effect over the years of Titans fans becoming Titans fans. And that was a huge, iconic moment, not only in Titans history, but in NFL history. As when you were kind of stating that call, I was kind of getting chills because you have a visual of that play. And the best part of it was kind of twofold. First, that it worked, right? Mm-hmm. But second, it was practice, right? That was not one of those, we're just going to write on a chalkboard on the sideline.
It was not Travis Kelce to Tony last night, right? That wasn't that was unscripted, right? Offsides or not. But, so for me, the home run throwback, as it was called in the playbook that the Titans had practiced, once a week or so, as the legend goes, leading up, and you never know when it was going to be pulled out. But for me, where I was in my living room in my childhood home that we lived in for 16 years. And I remember watching it in that living room on what at the time was like a big screen 32-inch TV at the time. And then seeing that and just going blank, just losing I was 9 years old. I didn't turn 10 until a few months after that. And then I did what I always did after a Titans win around that age. You run outside and you immediately try to go do it in the backyard. You try to go relive that moment in the backyard with a football and the neighborhood friends. So that's where I was during the Music City Miracle is, get the other kids on the street and go try to rework the Music City Miracle an hour after it happened. And, at the time, do you realize as a 9-year-old that this team is just a couple wins away from the Super Bowl? No, but it was an unbelievable moment that everybody has kind of frozen in their mind. And even in my childhood room, and I think it's still at my parents' house in the bonus room, we had a piece of art that was a Music City Miracle like painting. And the big picture up top was of Dyson going down the sideline and the Titan sideline cheering behind him. And there were 3 or 4 images below it of the step-by-step, like Lorenzo handing it to Frank throwing it, Dyson with the catch leaning down, and then the big image of him running on the sideline. And I remember the security guard up in the air, Jeff Fisher cheering, Steve hat backwards in there too. So I think that's where, all like that, the Music City Miracle is still in my parents' house. It's still a part of what this city is when it comes to pro sports.
I'm going to go grab something on my wall. Now you just reminded me of this, and you forget about what's on your wall, but I've got this. Right. This is an awesome. I'll show it to the group here in a second, but you're absolutely right. What it does is it makes you think about memories that you don't think about, right?
Yep.
I was in my childhood home. This was before like we renovated our kitchen. So this is like old school. Like I remember like this is my child. Kitchen. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. About that. And you had the kitchen television that was about that big that you had to like turn the little knobs and it had an antenna. And that's how we watched like at our really small kitchen table. Man, right next to the laundry room. The kitchen table is literally like you can reach to the laundry room. And so, but you walk out, you turn right, and there's the den, right? And that's where the 32-inch big screen is. And when that happened in a hallway, and I remember running down the hallway, back and down, and I was emulating, because I was a young kid myself, I was emulating Kevin Dyson yelling back and forth. And it was just, there's nothing more than an adrenaline rush, because this is football. This is the emotion of the Bills winning, and then, oh no, they didn't. The Titans are going to advance, and you're going to get another week of Titans buildup, of Titans football. And there's nothing, it brings a huge smile to my face of that moment that nobody will ever forget. If you are, and this is the craziest part, is far and wide. If you're a Titans fan, yeah, it means a lot more, the Music City Miracle play. But if you're an NFL fan and you watched that, it's unbelievable. It's what just happened in a win or go home type situation. So, man, yeah, it brings a smile to your face of that memory at that moment of being victorious. His football playing days were over. And so it's sad to see him go, and it's tragic, especially with the events that occurred, but he will be remembered in a bright light. And that's, at the end of the day, when all of our time will come, right? Yeah. I think that should be somewhat of the goal. Do you love the people around you? And did you make a better impact than before? And I feel like Frank made an impact. And so
deep.
And that's positive on not just one, but many, especially in this area.